Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I'm going to revisit Destiny 2. This is a game that I have well over 2,000 hours in. I haven't played it for a while, so I went back and took a look. And I gotta be honest, it isn't all that different from the last time I played, but if you haven't played in a very long time, there's quite a few changes, and it might be worth revisiting. The last time I stopped was kind of because they just seemed like, I don't know, I guess I had some uncertainty about the future of the game, and I didn't want to invest a whole lot more time when it looked kind of like it might even shut down. But honestly, it looks like they've got plenty of new content to come, and they're definitely taking it seriously, so I've got to give them some credit. And there's a reason I put 2,000 hours plus into this game. The gunplay is still super awesome. I love the graphics. I love how it moves. It's always been one of my favorite shooter games, and I played through one of the new events, which is pretty story driven, but it's still kind of a grind. And I also did a Crucible match, which is my personal favorite. In fact, one of the seasons I leveled up strictly from Crucible. I flipped my rating like 4 times that season. It was kind of funny. I ultimately just like playing the game. Just going in and doing bounties and stuff. It's actually pretty fun. I like that they keep forwarding the story, but I'm not super fond of how they do it. The events themselves, while fun maybe the first or second time, they generally have to be done so many times that they do get old pretty fast. And oftentimes they're simple enough. They've got some mechanics, but often you're just move to this area, kill a certain number of mobs, figure out whatever mechanic that particular boss has, take it out, get some rewards, move on. And I think the biggest problem I have with it is that it often takes a pretty long time. Some of these missions are like 20, 25 minutes long. And I kind of prefer things like that to be between 10 and 15 minutes at most. Something a little bit quicker so that you could get through it and move on to the next thing. It's one of the reasons that I kind of struggle with Space Marine 2, because when you do one of those missions, it's a very long process. And at the end, you don't really get that much experience for what you've just done. So if you want to max out, you're going to be spending a lot of hours, which is great for them because they string you along and you play the game longer. But as far as progress is concerned, it just feels like you're spending a whole lot of time for very few returns. And that's mostly my impatience, so I'm not really going to criticize them for that. It's probably more on me. But that said, I still wish that things were a little bit quicker, or at least shorter in the long run. That's why I kind of turned to Crucible and play those matches. They're rarely more than 10 minutes long, and you could get in and out and just have a great time for a short time. Whereas if you do one of the big missions, it's like it just drags on and on and on. And if you're going to do a dungeon or a raid, you're especially in for it. But of course, if you're going to do a raid, you generally know you're going to commit to 3 or 4 hours to get it done. And, that's fine. When I actually plan for it, I have a great time. But with Destiny, you're doing these missions that you don't necessarily know the first few times how long it's going to take. And you're like, oh my goodness, is this going to just drag on and on and on? There's something else to criticize, at least briefly, and that is the fact that when you come back, when you haven't played for a while, or even if you have and they release some new content, you log in and it immediately launches you into a mission. I've always found that really frustrating, especially considering that sometimes I've come back after not playing for a long time and I really need to look at my build and remember what the heck it is. I don't need to be thrown directly into some PvE thing. Now, of course, you can immediately leave it. It's not a big deal. But sometimes you're in a load screen for a few moments while you're trying to figure out what was I even doing? Have my keybinds changed? I don't know. I need a minute, guys. Just relax. Just recommend the mission to me as opposed to throw me directly into it. That would be nice. But I mean, let's be honest, that's a very minor gripe, especially considering it has a very easy fix. But it is just a strange decision considering that even if you have been playing, there may have been some changes that you need to take into consideration. Maybe you want to change some of your, armor loadouts or something. I don't know. That said, there is still plenty to do in the game. There's lots of great content. You could do Gambit, you could do Crucible, you've got Vanguard operations, and they've kind of swapped out all of those bounties for this Pathfinder system, which is a lot more convenient because you could just do them and not have to go to anyone to pick them up. And they're pretty reasonable for the most part. Some of them are a little absurd, like getting a whole bunch of rocket kills in Crucible. That just seems not necessarily impossible, but improbable. And I kind of wish that they wouldn't even include a few of those, but whatever. If you get lucky and you tear people up with one, I guess that's a free node. The rewards are reasonable enough. And as I came back this time, my character was in the 2000s. I think I was 2003 light. And I had a mission that took me to a place that gave me 2020 light. So that was kind of cool and got me to the point where I could immediately dive into some of the newer content without having to worry about meeting the gatekeeper threshold that they have in most of these. All around, if you haven't played Destiny for a super long time, like you haven't played since the Red War when it first came out, you'll probably be in for a big shock. You can't even access that content anymore, and they've sort of released little bits here and there of different things from even Destiny 1. Now, if you've played more recently, maybe done a few seasons, and you're thinking about coming back, you're not going to be surprised. There's nothing here that will be completely out of left field for you. You've got all the systems in place that they've had going for quite a while. It's basically at a point now where if it's not broken, they're not going to fix it. And for the most part, it isn't. So I guess it wouldn't be a hard sell to say you should give Destiny 2 a try now, especially if you enjoyed how it plays. I still think it's one of the best versions of these shooter looter games. Obviously, it does have the problem of when gear drops, it's not necessarily something you need. And so you're just breaking down tons of stuff. As far as getting god rolls and that sort of thing goes, if you've played for any specific period of time, you probably have a loadout that you already like. So drops are just kind of an irritating admin thing to take care of. Obviously, you could go and find a new build and try that out. I just find that collecting the materials in order to make new builds viable is a little bit of a pain. But at this point, I have so much extra stuff, I probably could dive in and give something else a shot. It's just that my Hunter's working so well right now. Anyway, I'm literally rambling about what's happened in the game for me. But as far as telling someone else to try it, if you have the stomach to come back and try and figure out what's going on without having to watch like a 3-hour lore video on YouTube, then, you'd probably have fun. If you don't really care about the story and you just want to shoot some Taken and stuff, then, by all means, it's definitely worth that. The fact that it's free to play at this point does make it also more attractive, and you could buy their battle pass, but it kind of doesn't matter. I've looked at the stuff you get, and unless you need those mats or whatever, especially if you've been playing for a long time, you might not, then, that's $10 you could save. But, they've got the big store. They've got all of the challenges you could do. If you're into spreadsheet gaming where you need lists of things to take care of, Destiny has you covered. Every week they add a whole bunch of things that you could tally up and track and go off and do. And if you can adjust your mindset to play that way instead of worrying about the story, if you just want to check off numbers, then you'll be really happy with the way that Destiny works these days. So I personally do like that kind of play. It gives me an objective that's achievable and it's tangible. And oftentimes it has a reasonable reward. Plus, it's just something to aspire to, and it's not as sort of amorphous as the story stuff goes. Whatever story beat they introduce may or may not have a super long quest that kind of detracts from all of the things you might like to be doing. It's kind of why the Pathfinder nodes work so well for me, because they coincide with so many of the challenges. So you do the Pathfinder modes, they've got, kill 10 enemies, shoot people with sniper rifles, that kind of thing. You just take care of it, and then you could just move on to the next one. And in that way, it has that quest log feel, like if you're playing something like Baldur's Gate where you just got a whole bunch of side quests and you just want to knock them off. Well, same thing with Destiny. So if that's your bag, they definitely have you covered. But anyway, have you played Destiny recently? Is this a game that you've played a lot of? Did you hate it, love it? Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it. But anyway, this is Robert with Society Games Files signing off.